This is Layert, and if you have ever felt that something is preventing you from advancing, whether it's your self-assurance or even your capacity to stick to your objectives, stick with me through to the very end. Many people overlook the transformational potential of balancing their vital energy with their emotions, which leads to obstacles, annoyances, and a lack of self-love. I want to demonstrate to you today how minor adjustments, when paired with a more profound understanding of your true self, can unleash potential you may not have even realized you possessed. I admit that I get a great sense of fulfillment when I consider the significance of this initial encounter with the energy of retention, because the person starts to realize the true transformative potential of this vital force with every new understanding that emerges about what it truly means to retain it. I've noticed that it involves more than just suppressing the urge. Rather, it involves channeling this energy into a steady transformation in how we handle day-to-day difficulties. I've come to understand that when we absorb this idea, our body, mind, and soul come together in a way that makes it clearer what we are and where we want to go. I find it really inspiring because I think that when we approach our daily routine as a field full of opportunities for progress, we uncover possibilities that seemed unattainable at first. Every decision is infused with a sense of reaffirmed confidence, particularly when we realize that every action we take is a direct reflection of our inner peace. Discipline is necessary for the practice, but it also emphasizes our need to use self-awareness to intentionally control our desires while honoring our inner potential and the nuances that contribute to energetic balance. This perception, in my opinion, reinforces the goal of making life lighter, since while I feel more powerful, I also realize how crucial it is to exercise caution while interacting with the creative force that retention fosters. In addition to conserving sexual energy, this exploration of the retention universe aims to direct it toward more significant goals, such as character development and self-realization. Ambitions naturally take on a different, more aware tone when you go through this, which brings to the surface the sense that every action you take on a daily basis directly affects the course of your life. I've been reflecting a lot on how this state of consciousness even affects how habits, behaviors, and beliefs are perceived. These gradually cease to make sense or, all of a sudden, begin to be re-examined in order for us to move forward without needless weights. Maintaining energy creates excitement and wonder for what life might provide when we are more aware, as if a door were opened to a new universe. I like to think of this practice as a motivator to adopt a healthier lifestyle, whether that means paying more attention to emotional well-being or eating a more balanced diet. We are here to become more whole and cognizant human beings, not only to fight impulses. I'm happy to say that the community that surrounds us, the Retain Gang, is a really strong source of inspiration. I find that the sense of belonging grows stronger when I see how many individuals are dedicated to learning this process, and those times when it seems impossible to maintain your position ultimately turn into chances for group development. Through conversations and comments, I've come to understand that every action matters in encouraging others to stick to their course, which gives me a sense of belonging. When I hear from people who have conquered persistent anxieties or temptations and found values that appeared dormant, I am delighted. Individual practice seems to have a cascading effect, generating an impromptu support system where everyone is motivated to become their best selves. Undoubtedly, cultivating the bravery to confront your own reflection and embrace both achievements and setbacks is a process that yields significant benefits. Every little triumph has a unique significance since it indicates that we are moving closer to our true selves and acting in a way that is consistent with the things we wish to create. The notion that thankfulness emerges naturally as a result of this self-improvement movement is one that I especially like. It is hard not to feel thankful that we made this decision when we observe that the effort to maintain retention produces advantages like self-control, mental clarity, and even increased vitality. Every step forward, no matter how tiny, demonstrates that anyone who is prepared to take on the task of self-mastery may achieve personal growth. But it's important to understand that finding balance between who we are and what we want to be is more important than striving for perfection. I like to assume that being mature is exactly about striking a balance between realistic acceptance of the now and aspirations for the future. The humility required to keep learning is revealed in this back and forth of discoveries. When we approach every challenge with a growth mindset, I have no doubt that it will enhance our bond with our true selves. The finding that sexual energy, when kept, directly influences our life's course, while also encouraging us to investigate unknown internal elements, intrigues me. Since this road necessitates patience and self-confidence, it is important to emphasize that there is no way to progress without honoring your own speed. However, it no longer makes sense to compare one's accomplishments to those of others, because true competition happens within each of us when we overcome our own limitations and old habits. I'm convinced that retention is more than just controlling the flow of energy. It's about fostering lofty objectives and utilizing it as motivation for accomplishments that go beyond simple sensual enjoyment. I understand that by directing the vital force to nourish the mind and soul, we see a slow maturation that permeates many facets of life, bringing us into contact with the growth of consciousness. I find it surprising that when we allow ourselves to be open to this self-knowledge exercise, we open up internal doors that expose feelings, wants, and even frustrations we were unaware were concealed. Observing our inner moods without escaping them, in my opinion, equips us to handle every obstacle that comes up. Ultimately, we learn to behave based on clarity rather than the erratic ebb and flow of events. The pursuit of balance is crucial because of this ongoing sensitive awakening. We are now active participants in a dialogue between our body, mind, and spirit, with the goal of bringing all three aspects into harmony rather than merely passive observers of our impulses. I came to understand that when we regard the body as a living temple, we honor its holiness and provide it with healthy eating and emotional practices. When we approach life with this sacred vision, we start to make better decisions about what we think about and steer clear of pointless diversions that stifle our creativity. I keep saying to myself that respecting one's body means realizing that every cell in our body vibrates in response to our emotions, and that retention is not a deprivation, but rather a means of developing both physical energy and spiritual discernment. Observing how intuition is sparked as we develop techniques that broaden consciousness is incredibly transforming for me. The more I learn about the subject, the more I understand how important it is to locate quiet places and meditate, even for a short while each day, in order to hear what your heart has to say. I feel truly confident in my ability to choose what should remain in my life and what should be let go when I can connect with this inner voice. Because I realize that every decision I make affects not just myself but also everyone around me, this mindset helps me feel more connected to life. I start to see that leading a conscious life is not just about big things. It's also about the little things like how I spend my time, how I eat, and most importantly, how I think. I make an effort to spread this viewpoint because I observe that individuals frequently become mired in the notion that great things must be done in order to advance. In actuality, minor choices that are made with the intention of enlarging one's own light have a big influence and lay the foundation for more daring actions. It is worthwhile, in my opinion, to consider that when we fortify our core, we are better equipped to handle outside constraints, such as social and interpersonal demands. We develop a natural defense against distractions that prevent us from growing as individuals when we learn to control our sexual energy, in my experience. Because everything reflects a more confident state of mind, this inner security, the outcome of conscious retention, inspires firmer behavior in many facets of life, including relationships and work. In fact, I like to stress that when we recognize that we already possess the majority of the resources, achieving emotional and spiritual self-sufficiency becomes feasible. Energy conservation and channeling reduces reliance on outside validation by teaching us to examine ourselves and explore for answers that begin with self-knowledge. This, in my opinion, is very advantageous, since it is harder to allow oneself to be influenced by the opinions of others or by enforced standards that do not align with our true selves once one has acknowledged their own power. I encountered innumerable accounts of people who followed the same road and attained an emotional independence I never would have thought possible. These stories affirm that we create space for a kind of progress that includes both material and spiritual wealth when we channel our natural creativity toward something positive. Therefore, it is evident that this flowering piques interest in learning more. In order to continue this process of self-discovery, people frequently enroll in classes, read books, or look for mentors as their desire to learn grows. Personally, I believe that the more I learn, the more I understand that there is still plenty to discover because the combination of retention and consciousness development is a nearly limitless field. Unquestionably, the intellect becomes stronger, but I also see that the greatest impact is seen in the subtle realm, as practice increases sensitivity to more clearly perceive both internal and external cues. I compare this sensation of being more aware of every detail to viewing the environment in sharper detail, as though my eyes were not obscured by mental distractions before. Some people wonder if this shift is genuine or merely an impression, but I firmly think that the sparkle in our eyes is genuine. There is a natural attraction that draws circumstances and people that vibrate at the same frequency, and I observe this when I see someone who practices retention and self-knowledge. This leads me to believe that every tiny step is worthwhile, even when the path is full of intricacies. Sharing this vision makes me joyful because it reaffirms that anybody who is willing to direct their thoughts, actions, and energies toward the same goal may achieve anything. We don't live this experience alone, in my opinion, and the Retain Gang is there to demonstrate that friendship and the group's example can act as mooring points for people who occasionally lack motivation or opportunities. Men who had previously been static in a number of areas of their lives have said that they saw changes in their relationships, physical health, and even their professional careers as soon as they committed to their own development. As this table illustrates, effective retention can even serve as a catalyst for significant changes. All of this, in my opinion, strengthens the importance of internal equilibrium. Without a plan, storing energy would be like keeping a treasure hidden away, useless in the actual world. The significant difference occurs when we discover how to release the energy centers so that this force can flow and illuminate every aspect of our experience. I understand that by creating these avenues, the bravery to confront one's fears and limitations head-on leads to an intense internal healing process that is frequently accompanied by moments of introspection, tears, and occasionally euphoria when we realize we are not prisoners of old patterns. It's important to note that this takes time to do, given that every accomplishment solidifies learning, patience, and dedication are required. Similarly, if the individual is prepared to go back on course without passing undue judgment on oneself, every fall provides important lessons. This, in my opinion, is the secret to the success of people who decide to respect their own bodies and broaden their awareness. A combination of self-compassion and resolve. Previously viewed as a source of fleeting pleasure, the body now serves as an ally in creating a meaningful existence. Therefore, it makes sense to view this journey as a project that entails providing comprehensive care for the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of life. To reiterate, when this total occurs, our intuition awakens and guides our decisions toward what makes the most sense, eliminating the unnecessary and drawing in circumstances that accentuate our greatest qualities. Making a connection with this inner strength demonstrates to me how retention serves as a continual reminder that we don't need to search outside ourselves for what we fundamentally already have. Simply examine yourself and develop the ability to control your own creative potential. The sense of presence becomes my companion when I understand that everything begins in the mind and heart, and the days begin to flow with a dynamism that shocks me. I also realize that enlightenment is not limited to the personal realm. When these concepts are shared, particularly in environments that value experience sharing, a positive contagion takes place. Every time someone recounts overcoming an addiction or doing something significant, the power created by retention reinforces their sense of belonging and helps them see a shared significance. I think it's great to see people who are driven to grow together, because it shows us that we're not the only ones looking for progress. Instead, we create a network that supports and feeds back fresh knowledge. I tend to agree with people who claim that coincidences don't exist. Every time we encounter someone, we have the opportunity to learn, whether it's from the motivation of a good example or the challenge that compels us to reevaluate our preconceived notions. Retention, in my opinion, is about genuine internal change that radiates and has an indisputable effect rather than merely being about exercising self-control. Muddle. Understand that this shift calls for the capacity to alter and grow with the phases of the process, while retaining mental flexibility and discipline. Therefore, retention is a lever that propels advancement on several levels and yields greater clarity, vitality, and empathy to handle various circumstances rather than a destination. I'm fascinated by the idea that every person walks the route in a unique way. There are broad principles that can be modified based on each person's unique background, life experiences, and level of sensitivity, rather than a one-size-fits-all formula. This appreciation for individuality deepens the experience because we accept what makes sense to us rather than searching for a set model or norm, and the transformation occurs more naturally. Maintaining an open mind to learn new things is, in my opinion, essential, since wisdom arises when we develop the humility to acknowledge that there is always more to learn. This openness to change is, in my opinion, the core of personal growth. Building the internal foundations that support an honest and fulfilling existence is more important than flaunting a list of accomplishments. Retention plays a significant role in this building, giving us the motivation we need to go beyond obstacles that are frequently imperceptible but have a powerful unconscious influence. I reaffirm that we are different at the same time, because although we walk carefully to avoid losing our equilibrium, we also recognize that each step we take brings us closer than we initially thought. Similar to climbing a mountain, the initial few meters may appear insignificant in comparison to the summit. But as we get higher, we may view a more expansive and stunning environment. This landscape, in my opinion, is a representation of our greatest potential and all the prospects that lie ahead of us if we choose to preserve retention in balance with the growth of consciousness. Reaching a particular level opens the door to the potential of motivating those who are just starting their path. Additionally, providing support and setting an example has a highly fulfilling aspect, since it helps us to further solidify our own learning. This exchange of knowledge builds relationships based on respect for one another, and the knowledge that everyone travels at their own speed. As each shared experience adds to the set of resources available to individuals looking to develop, the group as a whole becomes stronger. All of this, in my opinion, is a positive wave where each person's dedication to bettering themselves causes encouragement to spread. Personally, I enjoy seeing how this movement has a profound impact on life and adds significance to daily existence. Routine duties seem to suddenly have a new significance when each decision relates to a larger goal of energy conservation and channeling. It is important to note at this point that it is not just about our actions, but also about the energy we infuse into each attitude. Everything becomes more sincere, and as a result, more in line with our goals when we act from the heart. I firmly believe that the initial encounter with the energy of retention provides an indication of the depth of the path to internal equilibrium. However, I am aware that every person will find their own motivations for seeking and mastering the abilities required to use this energy. Knowing that fresh doors open at every level, exposing more facets of who we are and offering chances for development that surpass our initial expectations, is what thrills me. For this reason, I persist in reiterating the need of seeing energy conservation and investment as a means of self-improvement. I believe that each of us has the capacity to change our inner states and, as a result, make each life experience more tangible. Understanding this power of renewal, in my opinion, allows us to inspire and be inspired, fostering a positive feedback loop that strengthens our belief in a society where everyone assumes more responsibility for their own fate while maintaining an eye on the welfare of the whole. Find out how my new book, Alchemy of the Gods, might change your life. It explores important topics including Kundalini activation, crystalline oil awakening, and ultimate spiritual freedom. This book, which is accessible in print, digital, and even audiobook formats, promises to fundamentally alter your perspective on the relationship between the body and the soul. Alchemy of the Gods is designed for you if you wish to boost your vitality, cultivate a strong sense of self-love, and reach your full potential. The best part is that, to ensure instant access, the link appears in both the description and the pinned remark. First of all, though, I have something new for you that you may not have anticipated. The Semen Retention Success Path is the definitive manual you have been waiting for if you are prepared to change your life and increase your vitality to previously unthinkable levels. I compiled my research on the 6 main topics of semen retention into an audiobook that contains more than 2 hours of extremely beneficial material for your growth. Get ready for an unconventional voyage of self-discovery and personal development. Imagine regaining your vitality, developing profoundly and permanently, and unlocking enormous vital energy. This audiobook is a master key that unlocks doors to a new degree of achievement and fulfillment, much beyond a straightforward instruction. Additionally, you will receive a 30% discount on my exclusive ebook, The Art of Semen Retention for Men, which contains over 20 pages of effective techniques to enhance your spiritual development, personal growth, emotional equilibrium, self-awareness, spiritual connection, and clarity of life purpose when you purchase the Semen Retention Success Path. I want to assist you in realizing the potential that every one of us possesses. The new Channel Members tab, which I'm launching to cap it all off, is an amazing chance to become a huge supporter and receive exclusive YouTube privileges like early material and unique loyalty badges. Your contribution inspires me to provide even more information about spirituality, self-improvement, and seminal retention. Don't pass up this opportunity to learn more, and join a community that is dedicated to helping you become the best version of yourself. Details and links can be found in the pinned comment and description. Includes everything. Since actual personal development is consolidated in an organic way at this time, I find it fascinating to explore this stage in which the heart becomes the axis capable of linking the densest energies and impulses that aim to reach higher planes. In my opinion, the heart, which is covered in the symbolic color green, represents the link that connects our material cravings and our quest for spiritual growth. When we see this center functioning as a powerful conductor that coordinates the vibrations produced by the lower chakras and the goals associated with the higher chakras, it becomes evident how crucial unconditional love is to bringing everything into harmony. Since we frequently hold emotional recordings that, if not honestly viewed, might obstruct our energy flow, I like to remark that one of the biggest challenges of this path is to view the heart as a welcoming space. I see the earthly experience as a kind of school that teaches people how to love through a variety of circumstances, some joyful, some quite difficult, but all educational. I learned that these events are chances for emotional development, since they make us confront our frustrations and concerns honestly and directly. I acknowledge that it is not always easy to see our suffering as a necessary part of the evolutionary process, but once we learn the lesson from each wound, something remarkable occurs. The soul flowers and the once heavy heart starts to feel lighter, beat a little less. I notice a lot of consistency in the way that the retention practice immediately relates to this awakening, directing creative energy toward the fourth chakra, which supports the growth of compassion that extends beyond the individual, as well as the development of self-love. I believe that witnessing this force ascending from the sexual center to the heart is a transforming experience, because people who have it say they feel more in control of their relationships and themselves. Retention, in my opinion, is a part of the process of eliminating bad habits that have been ingrained over time, rather than operating independently. A conducive atmosphere is established for the heart chakra to open and love to flow freely when an individual learns to be more conscious of the present without getting caught up in the pains of the past or the fears of the future. Since I've come to recognize that emotional tensions tend to subside when the mind is not mired in regrets or excessive ambiguity, I believe that this feeling of presence is essential. It's clear that everyone develops emotional scars, whether they be from disappointments, unhappiness, or worries. The ability to confront these emotions and let them go without further enclosing them in the heart is what separates individuals who advance from those who stay static. Some people express difficulties forgiving others and themselves, but everything becomes simpler when we realize that forgiveness is the key that releases the bonds we put on ourselves. A huge step toward internal healing is acknowledging that we experience difficult circumstances, specifically to discover our capacity for self-love. Since I think that self-worth stems from this internal empathy, I like to relate this notion to how we treat ourselves on a regular basis. People who have a compassionate view of themselves tend to have better interactions with others, because they no longer view others as enemies, but rather as mirrors reflecting areas that still require attention or recognition. I see that the heart chakra's green hue encourages a connecting with nature's vitality. This core can be strengthened and balanced with the help of the earth, which is so rich in greenish hues. Simple activities like sitting in a tree's shade, walking barefoot on the grass, and taking in the peace and quiet of the surroundings can have a profound impact on us by allowing us to decompress and rejuvenate. I observe a shift in people's appearance when they engage in these activities, as though the mental rush is replaced by a sense of tranquility that comes from spending time in nature. When you understand that loving doesn't mean losing something but rather enhancing the experience of being alive, you can feel unconditional love, which is so frequently discussed in books and lectures. Unconditional love is characterized by acceptance of the other person for who they are, without requiring changes that negate them, in contrast to conditioned love, which is linked to expectations and impositions. It is important to keep in mind that, first and foremost, you must turn this love inside toward yourself. Without doing so, empathy and understanding cannot overflow. Unconditional love is sometimes confused with tolerating abuse, but I think this misunderstanding results from a lack of understanding between showing love and tolerating disrespect. Strengthening our hearts enables us to set boundaries that both protect our integrity and permit us to show compassion. I understand that maintaining this equilibrium might be difficult, but everything works more smoothly when the fourth chakra is opened, and the energy of retention directs sensitivity. In this way, empathy is another quality that is significantly improved. I've been inspired to keep going on this path of growing love by learning how to listen, accept the opinions of others, and perceive the world with less bias. We discover that there is a point of oneness that transcends appearances and reaches our most human side when we stop categorizing individuals based only on their shortcomings or differences. Because there is mutual understanding, this position not only uplifts the soul but also encourages coexistence in society. I like to connect all of this to the idea that sexual energy is retained, which keeps us from squandering it on urges and unrestrained needs, and instead uses it to fuel the most admirable and energizing feelings. I believe that when this flow is well established, the body and soul move in unison, producing vigor and an inner calm that cannot be found in fleeting, surface-level pleasures. This, in my opinion, is a genuine return to our core, one that enables us to behave in the world with genuine assurance and without having to prove anything to anybody. Every step I take strengthens my belief that the unobstructed heart maintains an openness that permeates every part of existence. Because we are connected to the present, where life occurs, we no longer fear the past because it has already been understood, and we become less fearful of the future. By doing this, we start to appreciate every second, every conversation, and every chance to express the love that was previously concealed beneath layers of insecurity and dread. I've heard amazing tales from folks who have followed this similar route in greater detail about how heart awareness has changed how people relate to and communicate with their loved ones, romantic partners, and even co-workers. They claim to be more composed when handling criticism, and they have empathy that helps them view disagreements as chances for understanding rather than as contests between egos. It seems to me that this shift in viewpoint occurs exactly when an attitude of openness, unrestricted by conditioning, is adopted. One experiences an inexplicable sense of liberation, along with the notion of unconditional love as a unifying force. Saying "I love you" to everyone is not enough. We also need to perceive each other as a part of a larger, interrelated whole. We began to build a stronger sense of self-worth when this affection turned toward us, acknowledging our shortcomings while also appreciating previously disregarded traits. This inner openness creates a state of well-being that serves as a catalyst for future accomplishments on its own. The notion that the body reacts to high vibrations coming from the heart is supported by research that link the release of specific hormones of well-being to feelings of love and affection. People frequently say that when the fourth chakra is in balance, they are more enthusiastic, want to take better care of their health, and want to distribute positive energy. Their living environment is affected by all of this since the people around them notice the differences in speech, behavior, and even appearance. The way that work in the fourth chakra and retention work in tandem intrigues me greatly. While we create space for true love to emerge, we are also learning to control our impulses and channel our life energy with conscience. It appears that the two activities complement one another, laying a strong basis that encourages the emergence of fundamental virtues like humility, respect, empathy, and compassion. Because sexual energy, when cut, goes beyond simple physical attraction and becomes a resource to nurture the spirit, the whole being benefits when this awakening occurs collectively. Since love is what binds us to our divine essence, I frequently answer that there is a connection between this condition of loving connection and self-realization. The heart emanates a vibration that reverberates in every cell when we responsibly practice retention and allow energy to flow freely via the body's primary channel, This activates dormant potentials and brings about a sense of completeness that is hard to obtain through other means. The idea that nothing is lost in loving becomes more evident in this state, in my opinion, since we give ourselves and the other our best selves without attachment or ulterior motives. I recall a time when I discovered that my posture in the face of minor daily annoyances had significantly improved following a meditation centered on the heart chakra. Things that had before made me impatient started to make me more aware of both my own and other people's limitations. It appears that when we nurture this compassionate love, we become more patient because we are more open to hearing, welcoming, and giving non-judgmental looks. This kind of encounter confirmed to me that having the heart liberated has a profound impact on everyday life in addition to relieving internal tensions. All of this occurs without the need to coerce actions to appear more compassionate, since change originates internally. The flow of love becomes nearly inevitable as soon as retention boosts our energy to this level. All it asks is that we stay vigilant and prevent the recurrence of previous blocks. It is essential to maintain this loving vigilance with ourselves because despite all of our progress, bad things might still happen to us. The main distinction is that we now know not to fully identify with them, allowing the flow to unfold naturally without our intervention. As if we were tuned with a frequency of higher vibration, anybody who has experienced this says that life takes on more vibrant color and that they feel lighter. Because we no longer have to keep up the facade of perfection, the likelihood of them realizing their own errors and growing from them also increases. Loving energy encourages us to keep becoming better while embracing our human nature, complete with setbacks and disappointments. Since this stance occurs without excessive guilt or fruitless comparisons with others, I believe it to be the most authentic type of evolution. Those around us may be moved to seek out the core itself by this inward, private, and simultaneously overflowing process. As a result, I appreciate how the primacy of the heart and retention practice are integrated. The body becomes the tool that keeps love growing because it is fed by a life energy that is not wasted. The mind can be battered and hear the faintest speech coming from the breast when it is no longer plagued by recurring cravings or worries. After receiving this stream of unwavering love, the spirit grows and realizes that it is a part of something far bigger than what our narrow perspective often allows. By combining these three components, we establish an environment that is conducive to love, manifesting itself as the force that truly propels life, rather than as an abstract idea. As a result, every stage of the process of withholding and opening the cardiac chakra strengthens a sense of balance, present, and connectedness to our true selves. Because it is known that the air that nourishes our lungs also unites all living things, supported by the same primal source, the simple act of taking a deep breath and feeling thankful for existence is profound. And it is harder to maintain walls between us when we view one another with this loving perspective, because we realize that, at our core, we are all working toward the same evolutionary goal, each at our own pace. Being aware of how lovely it is to feel a part of the whole makes us realize how important it is to respect our unique experiences, take care of our bodies, maintain our mental well-being, and strive for continuous progress. This is how responsibility and self-love also emerge, because the process of preserving and perfecting energy becomes a means of exposing the life that pulses around. Those who feel this sensation report a natural deepening in the practice of retention. It seems that every day offers a fresh chance to be the best version of oneself for oneself and other people, free from the demands of uncontrollable expectations or the obsession with instant gratification. Because the expanded heart does not shrink when faced with the first obstacle, but instead looks for answers that are in line with internal wisdom, the same wisdom that grows stronger each time we feed the flame of unconditional love. This lightness does not negate difficulties. Rather, it provides a more stable emotional framework to meet them. Since it encompasses all that surrounds us, from how we handle the odd circumstances of daily life to how we express our creativity at work or in personal projects, I much value the notion that this love transcends conventional affective relationships. When the essential energy that was previously scattered is focused on fostering ideas, words, and deeds that embody the essence of love, I can see how everything makes sense. As one item feeds the other on an upward spiral, this naturally enhances our vibration, forming a positive feedback loop that further intensifies our capacity for love and retention. Although I acknowledge that every individual travels this path in a different manner, there is a convergence of experiences that bear witness to the transformational potential of both the practice of retention and the awakening of the heart. Even those who are more doubtful discover that the heart is a genuine hub of spirituality and emotional intelligence when they set aside time to meditate, consider their inner states, and feel the sensation of being present in every breath. Those who are unaware of this way may underestimate the profound changes that can result from allowing this affleur intellect. I also observe that this change has an effect on communities that are built around concepts like retention in addition to the individual. There is space for a very rich interchange of experiences, guidance, challenges, and triumphs when everyone is genuinely interested in boosting their energy beyond their immediate inclinations. Even though each person is at their own stage, love is present here as a conductive thread that enhances everyone. As a result, community coexistence is no longer a mass of individuals, but rather a place where everyone can flourish together. What is essential is that a tune is established in which everyone feels inspired to grow a bit more, without being a source of competition. Some call it a fraternity, while others like the term brotherhood. Since the exchanges occur at one heart level to another, and the objective is to give power for everyone's growth rather than to overlap, I think this kind of loop is a simple mirror of the fourth unlocked chakra. I'll admit that I think this phenomenon, an awakening that radiates to people who are eager to receive, is one of the great advantages of practicing retention in conjunction with loving expansion. I gained a deeper knowledge of the importance of cultivating empathy by delving into these relationships, not as a passive attitude, but as an active one of comprehension and acceptance. The ability to provide support rather than condemnation is increased when one realizes that everyone struggles inside, and that unfriendly or negative behaviors are frequently manifestations of personal traumas. Because they transmit every gesture, every conversation, and even every respectful quiet, this relational maturity is one of the most beautiful expressions of individuals with an open heart. Now let's go back to the notion that unconditional love does not impose strict or conditional rules. Rather, it permits each experience to be fully experienced and views each individual for who they are, not for what they wish to be. Since one must first dissolve the internal currents that link us to limiting beliefs and resentment in order to love each other unconditionally, I like to point out that this takes self-knowledge. If we continue to place the responsibility for previous frustrations on ourselves or other people, you cannot claim to be trying to expand our hearts. Thankfully, the heart has an amazing ability for regeneration. As we learn to harness this potential, magic occurs in both big and tiny aspects of daily life. It's amazing to observe that when we are in harmony with this force, our entire body aligns as well. Our breathing improves, our faces calm down, and even our heartbeat finds a more sympathetic tempo. Numerous studies demonstrate the impact of emotions on physiology, and it is noteworthy that, among other advantages, feelings of love and thankfulness are associated with favorable immune system reactions. Therefore, it is much more obvious because it makes perfect sense to combine this movement of feeding a loving heart without charging with retention. It is nothing more than fostering a holistic state of health that includes mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being in addition to physical well-being. It is a cycle where love is the seed, retention is the nutrition, and the heart is the fertile soil. The fruits of this cycle are stronger relationships, a true feeling of purpose, and increased well-being. Therefore, even though there may be initial resistance or doubts, I firmly believe that every effort to open the heart and allow unconditional love to flow is worthwhile. Since it is a deep-rooted rescue, it is common for us to occasionally encounter insecurities. However, as we confront them, we come to understand that all of our deep-seated dread is really a defense mechanism the heart has created to hold onto the past suffering. The heart becomes an unquenchable flame that lights our path, and everyone on our path if we are prepared to remove this layer with compassion, empathy, and accountability. Because the more love we produce inside ourselves, the more we can contribute to a world currently struggling with discord and a lack of empathy. This phenomena serves as a reminder of how important it is for each of us to look after ourselves. As we learn to grow energy like we would cultivate a flower that requires water, light, and insect control, I see the practice of retention as an encouragement to firmly commit to this work. It becomes clear from the procedure that if the heart chakra is not completely open, some of this valuable energy will be lost due to emotional blockages or unresolved problems, which will prevent it from being used to its full potential. This process of clearing and opening the chest is not only about sometimes meditating or repeating affirmations. It calls for perseverance, attitude, bravery to relive trauma, and a readiness to replace it with knowledge. I'm delighted to discover that sexual energy, when lifted to the heart, can erase past records of rejection and hatred. It seems as though a helpful chain has passed through the forgotten rooms of our minds, illuminating areas that were before dark. Because the great integration between heaven and earth, matter and spirit, and human and divine occurs in the heart, I think that the heart is the great turning point for individuals who wish to integrate spirituality and self-development. To put it succinctly, discussing the unlocking of this center and the power of unconditional love is a recognition that without this pillar, retention is limited to impulse self-control, without the higher guidance that turns this energy into something much greater and more fulfilling. The essence that binds us to the creative source and enables us to completely experience life on earth is the ability to love without conditions, both for ourselves and for others. Every time we decide to direct our energy into our hearts, we are part of a holy process of healing and development that benefits not just ourselves, but also everyone else who is prepared to join us in our quest for peace that brings out the best in everyone.